Right, guys, thanks for joining us. Episode 2 of Current MMA Plus here, joined by Elliot Nash today. Lucas won't be joining us, so he's stuck with myself. We're going to be breaking down UFC 268 that we just witnessed, that absolute stacked card, and then we're going to be previewing this weekend's event, headlined by Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez. Elliot, how are we doing?
We're doing well, mate. We're doing well.
Good stuff. Do you win much money last weekend?
Oh, you've done all right. We've done all right. Not too much, but we've done all right.
Good stuff. Well, let's get straight into it then, because there's probably a million things that we could talk about with UFC 268, but try and keep it brief, and we like to look ahead. But there's a couple of bits that we got to go over. So first thing that I want to ask you about, we've got to start with Usman. Kamaru Usman, he's every time he fights lately, more and more people start to say, is this guy the GOAT? Certainly, at least from a welterweight perspective. So, Dana White said afterwards he thinks he's the best welterweight ever. John Jones even weighed in and said he's definitely in the debate now. He's doing some good stuff. So kick us off, Elliot. Do you agree or disagree? Let's start with from a welterweight perspective. I think that's a bit more realistic. Do you think Kamaru Usman's the greatest welterweight ever?
Well, it's between him and GSP, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think now he's kind of cemented it. He's overcome every challenge he's had to face. The cardio of Colby, he's kind of like full capacity kind of thing, And the way he beat Burns was still doesn't get talked about enough. But I think he's the GOAT of the welterweight division.
Yeah. What do you think that says about Colby Covington? Because Dana said afterwards he thinks he's the second best fighter in the world, because that's how highly he rates Kamaru Usman. What do you think of him, and where does he sit now? Do you think he's that good, or do you just think styles make fights and he matched up well?
I think it's a bit of both. I think he is fantastic, but I think since the last fight, he only fought Woodley, which kind of dated really badly. I'd like to see him kind of expand against these other fighters like Burns and fighters like that. But style makes fights, absolutely. And I think the personality made this fight. I think the Usman's intensity is always great, and you've got Kobe's lariness, if you will. I think it was a perfect match. Perfect.
Yeah. Most important question from UFC 268 that you're going to get, was that a takedown? Did Kobe take Usman down?
Yes, I think so. Just give it to him. But he took his back and kind of tripped him twice almost. So I thought it kind of should count. But in the words of, was it DC or Joe Rogan? One of them said it technically didn't count, but I think so. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, the UFC came out. They actually gave the reasoning behind why it's not classed as a takedown, and it pretty much came down to they don't think he held control over Usman, so it can't be classed as a takedown. And they also said that MMA takedowns are different to wrestling takedowns. I think that was a little bit of a slight at DC in some of his comments. I think it's a takedown, but they're going to protect that record. He's got 100% takedown defense. They're not going to let him lose that. I think they did a similar thing with Conor for a while. I remember Dennis Seaver got him down briefly, but they didn't count those ones. He kept his 100% takedown defense for a while. So that's the way it is. Moving on to the co-main event then, Rose Namajunas. I guess, what we've got to say about this is Rose really the best? That's what she said after the first fight. She said, I'm the best. She comes into the second fight. It was very competitive, but she gets the nod. First of all, do you think she won? And if so, then is she the best in that division?
I was having this conversation with someone before saying, who do you think won? And they thought Weili won. And I thought, okay, I thought Rose won personally. I thought she'd done that a little bit more, but I'm not angry at either if it went another way. But for me, I'd said Rose just done that little bit more. But in terms of the GOAT status for her division, she's definitely there. But in terms of women's pound for pound, I don't think so. She's that level just below kind of Nunes and Shevchenko.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty high level. There's it's almost, even though Rose is so good, it probably still sort of feels like this when you think about Amanda Nunes and Shevchenko. They're just so good. I had some money on Weili, so I think I'm a little bit biased. I had Weili taking the first 3 rounds, but it is what it is. We'll move on. But it was a good fight, very close. So I mean, this for me, and people are probably going to disagree with this, it was a fun one. Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. I think that's my favorite fight ever. In terms of just how much I enjoyed it, because we sat here last week and we spoke about it, and I tried not to get my hopes up. I was like, you know what, these fights that get built up so much, I think it's going to end up being boring. Maybe Chandler will end up taking him down. Maybe boring's a bad choice of word, but not quite what we were expecting. And I think it actually somehow topped our expectations of how crazy that fight would be. I think what actually made it even that much better is that it went the distance, so we got to see as much as possible of it. Because I could have seen quite an early finish, to be honest. You know how powerful Gaethje is. You know, he knocks most people out. You know, pretty much the only person that finished Tony Ferguson ever. Chandler, not going to say he's chinny, but we've seen him get knocked out in his last fight. So, you know, Charles Oliveira isn't exactly a huge power puncher. Got finished by him, so I thought could end up being a quick one as well, but it was just insane. So, you know, what do you reckon? Top 5 best fights ever? Top 3?
In terms of everyone else's perspective, yeah, you could argue, yeah, top 5, 100%. I'm with you. One of my favourite fights, if not my favourite fight of all time. The way they just kind of like looked at each other and just agreed to swing just by the hips, you know? And one of my favourite moments, I'm not sure if you picked up on it, was like Chandler kind of knew he was losing. He had the blood down his face, and he was taunting Gaethje to come closer and just to start swinging on each other. And I thought it kind of shows you what Chandler's like. He's not the greatest, but he'll fight anyone their way. For example, Gaethje's an incredibly hard hitter, kicks anyone like, you know, his kicks are like, and he's willing to go toe for toe with him. And I think that's just what Chandler does. I think if he fights Islam Makhachev, I think he'd try and wrestle with him, just because an ego is a bad choice of words, but he's got that self-belief to fight anyone anyway.
Yeah. I'd love, if I was at the press conference, I'd love to ask Dana how happy he is that he signed Michael Chandler, because that was such a good shout. Like, he comes in from another promotion. He's the backup for Khabib versus Gaethje. He knocks out Dan Hooker. He fights for the title. I mean, people forget how good his fight with Charles Oliveira was. Like, that was a crazy first round, and then ended shortly after. Then that fight with Justin Gaethje, like that might go down as one of the best signings ever, really. Why not? Like, he's just such a company man. You know, he just loves it. And I mean, 2 days after he's had that war, he's already calling out Conor McGregor. He just absolutely loves it.
Oh yeah, great signing.
Amazing. So let's move on then and get into Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. It's not the most stacked card in the world, if we're honest, but that main event, it makes up for it. That could be a pay-per-view main event. First of all, who are you more excited to see back? Yair Rodriguez or Max Holloway?
I'm going for Max Holloway, I think, obviously. But it depends, because Rodriguez hasn't fought for quite a while. I think it was 2019, his last fight against Jeremy Stevens. The second, I think it was the second fight, wasn't it? Because the first one had an eye poke or something.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know what he's going to be like. He could completely change himself, you know. But Holloway, I think with Holloway, you always know what you're going to get. With Holloway, he hasn't lost since before the Volkanovski fight. He hasn't lost since McGregor. I think it was like 2014. Mr. Consistent. I think you're going to get like
apart from Poirier as well, but
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But yeah, other than that, that's at lightweight as well. So, you know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
So at featherweight,
yeah. Holloway's just his output's always going to be there, and it's so great to watch. And I think he's one of them fighters you can kind of show a non-fight fan saying, look how crazy this guy is. He's the most disrespectful guy there is, you know, because especially after the Cater like ambush of punches, you know.
Yeah, insane. Do you think it's worth the risk for Max Holloway? Because he's in a good spot. You know, Alexander Volkanovski's pretty much said he's willing to fight him again. He said that's where the money is. That's what people want to see. He said he'll fight Max again. I think it's fair to say that Volkanovski doesn't have anyone lined up. The Ortega fight was a bit of a stretch, giving him a title shot. He barely fought, and then he beat Korean Zombie, and there's not really anyone else, so they put him in it. You know, what's in it for Max Holloway? Is it worth the risk here to fight Yair Rodriguez?
I think to him, it's a small risk, small reward, because he's already got the title shot regardless. But I think it's kind of keep himself active. I think this is a fight he thinks he should be winning no matter what. So I think keeping himself active, ready for that Volkanovski fight. Because if Volkanovski's fought Ortega, he's going to have that more like activeness, is that the word? Kind of activity before
something like that.
Yeah, something like that before fighting him again. So yeah, I think to Holloway in his head it probably makes sense, but for us fight fans it kind of doesn't, you know.
Fair enough. So for Yair then, on the flip side of it, obviously it's worth it for him because he's fighting Max Holloway, who's ready for a title shot. Yair can probably just skip the queue and get one himself for this. Is there anything to lose for Yair here?
As long as he doesn't get finished in the first round, I think that would be really bad. I mean, it goes without saying it'd be bad anyway, but Holloway's not really known for kind of putting fighters away first round. It's kind of that output, like the death from 1,000 cuts or whatever it is kind of thing. So as long as he puts in a good performance and kind of goes with him, unlike Cato, who kind of got demolished, if he kind of stands with him and does well, even if he loses, that's a good result, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he could lose a few years off his life, but
yeah.
If you have a performance like that Cater one, I mean, I feel bad for Cater. I honestly don't want to see him fight again. That the amount of punishment that might be the most. That's definitely up there for the most punishment I've ever seen someone take, especially at such a low weight class as well. Like, Cain Velasquez JDS is probably a lot more impactful because he's so big and strong, but for a 145er to take that type of damage that he did, like even Dana White said afterwards, he was like, get him a hospital. That's scary how much he's took. So yeah, fight Max all the way. There's a bit to lose if it doesn't go your way. But is there any way that fight isn't a fun one, do you think?
No, I think it's got to be fun. And I think we're going to see the kind of like nods of like, let's start swinging. I can't remember when Holloway did it. He did it to a fight quite a while ago. And obviously Rodriguez did it against Korean Zombie, where they kind of like nodded. Okay, let's start swinging. Then caught
I think you mean Ricardo Lamas with Holloway.
Yeah, that was it. And I think we might see one of them moments, because I just think it's going to be so much. It could be so much fun, this fight. You could see some wild stuff.
100%. Definitely some spinning shit.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the title shots then, we touched on that a bit. Do you think there's any way that the winner of this doesn't get a title shot? And I only say that, obviously, I think it's fair enough for Max. You could maybe say it's not fair here, but the reason I say that is because featherweight's not amazing. Like there's lots of really good fighters in it, but I don't think it's really got the activity for somebody to say like, I've won all these fights lately, I should be next. The featherweight division doesn't really have that. It's got people lower down the rankings who've got a good win streak, and then feel like the people as you get towards the top are just sort of a bit like, fight a couple of times a year, they'll win some, lose some. There's not really those people that really stand out to say, like a Leon Edwards, a welterweight, where you say, come on, this guy's due a shot after this guy. Featherweight doesn't really have that. Do you think there's any way that, the winner of this fight this weekend doesn't get the next shot?
No, I think there's no chance, surely, unless, is there someone we're forgetting? Maybe, well, we're kind of out of the conversation now, but Zabit, when he was active, he was kind of a name to kind of look out for.
He's like unofficially retired. I don't know what's going on with Zabit. So he told, I think it was TASS, a Russian outlet, that he didn't really like the fame. And he's seen what happened to Khabib and with the money and the fame, and it sort of scared him a little bit, and he didn't really fancy it. That was the most recent report I've seen for that. I don't know how definitive that is, because, people talk like that, but then he's so talented and he's there in the world. You've got to think he'd get the itch to come back. But yeah, that is a shame. I mean, I still want to see Zabit versus Yair. That was a fight that always had to happen, wasn't it? And it never has. Sorry, I cut you off a bit there. Is there anyone else in mind in the featherweight division?
No, not that I can recall. I don't think there's anyone who kind of really pushing their name out there,
Yeah, just get Jeremy Stevens in there. He's hardest hitting 145er in the world. When he hits people, they go to sleep. So
he's always a fun one, though. He's always a fun one. But oh god, could you imagine him against Holloway now?
Yeah, not a good one. Volkanovski's obviously watching. He said that he doesn't think he's going to be able to handle the pressure that Max Holloway's got. Not too much to say about this one, but do you agree with that? Is that how you think it's going to go down? Do you just think it's Holloway's pressure? That's how it's going to go, like it always does with his fights?
I think so. I think it's most likely. The last guy you want to fight after some years out is Holloway.
Mm-hmm. So something a bit more exciting for Holloway then, because obviously we've talking about that, he's probably next in line for a featherweight title shot. He's on the MMA Hour this week, and he's eyeing some 155-pound fights. So people forget about this. I do myself. He's got a win over the lightweight champ, Charles Oliveira, and that one was pretty easy. He's fought Conor McGregor, which didn't go his way, but it was a long time ago. They've got that history. They've went back and forth a couple of times. So he's starting to eye some of these big money fights now. He's saying that, he could get back in there of Oliveira. The McGregor fight's always there. Would you be upset with that? If Max decides to jump ship and move up instead of running it back with Volkanovski again, what would you prefer to see out of him?
I'm not mad at either, 155, there's some great fights to make with him, especially imagine Chandler Holloway. Imagine how random and great that would be, But I would normally I'm kind of annoyed with the McGregor stuff, saying like him fighting someone else again, but I think Holloway's the perfect one. You've got the mad output and you've got the mad power.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad at that. There's plenty of lightweight fights that kind of sell pay-per-views, if obviously it won't because of the title, but you kind of know what I mean. The fight nights are there for him.
Yeah, I would love to see Max do it properly. I think when he did the Poirier one, it wasn't like a proper move to lightweight where he put a bit of muscle on and really trained for a lightweight fight and went up there to try and capture it. It was just sort of like I don't know, spur of the moment thing's the right way to put it, but it was just like, I'll just not cut weight and fight him at 155 pounds. And you can just see the difference in that fight. Like, obviously, Poirier's a tough task anyway, but you could just see the difference in power. Like, Holloway's pretty skinny. He's not very muscly. He's not very powerful. It's about the volume. I would love for him, if he's going to move up, to really do it properly and say, right, I'm going to do a John Jones, but actually what John Jones supposed to do, like take a bit of time off, build some muscle, and then come to the division. That's what I'd love to see. I don't want to see him try and do it again the way he did against Poirier, because, as you said, like him against Chandler and all these fights, amazing. But I just don't think the power will be there. I think Max Holloway would probably jab Chandler a few times and try to put it on him, and then Chandler would probably just explode on him and kill him. So like,
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be fun. I love seeing people move up. It's something that, like, growing up as a UFC fan, we didn't really see enough of. It was always just like a metaphorical question saying like, oh, what if GSP fought Anderson Silva when they're in different weight classes and it'll never happen and stuff. Now it's like a very realistic thing. Like, lots of people do it. So I love to see it. I love people to jump around divisions because it just opens up so many doors for matchups. Like, Max has fought everyone after this weekend in featherweight, really. And to see him fight a third time Volkanovski, I'll watch it. But I mean, you've only got so many fights in your career. I'd rather see him fight other people, personally.
Yeah, I agree.
So this weekend's card, mentioned it's not the most stacked. Is there any other fights on the card that you're really watching out for that you think are interesting?
Song Yadong.
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting at Julio Ars. I'll probably butcher the name. But yeah, Song Yadong. He's one of the guys, he's so reliable. He always puts in a fun fight. He's always up for like that kind of stand and bang style, although he can wrestle a bit. But yeah, I love watching him. He's always fun to watch. I think he had a recent fight with Kyler Phillips, which was pretty fun.
Yeah.
He's always one to watch. I'm so kind of surprised he's not the co-main, given the card's quite dead. But we do know how much the UFC love heavyweights. The
order of the card's a bit weird. Like, if you look at the card top to bottom, there's quite a lot of good fights. But then it's like you got some good fights right at the bottom of the prelims, and then some fights that people don't really care about on the main card. It's a little bit all over the place. I think they just sort of said Max Holloway's at the top, everybody else just fight when you want. It kind of, it really is like that. Yeah, Ben Rothwell, I mean, he's always fun. He's a heavyweight. Heavyweights are fun to watch when they start going, but a co-main, probably not the best choice in my opinion, but hey, who are we kind of to challenge Big Dana White? Yeah, Song Yadong, alpha male guy as well. So you don't see many team alpha male guys in a boring fight. So yeah, he's definitely one to watch out for. I'm going to go for Chris Daukaus versus, oh shit, actually, it might be the different Daukaus. I always get these mixed up.
Kyle Daukaus.
It's Kyle. Always say Chris instead. His older brother at heavyweight. Kyle Daukaus against Roman Dolidze. So this one's a change for both guys. So Roman was meant to be fighting Eric Anders. We did an interview with Eric just a few weeks ago about that fight. I was pretty excited for that. Eric and Roman trained together, like pretty good mates as well. And it was pretty hyped for that fight. It should have been a fun one. Eric Anders has got COVID, so he's had to pull out. Obviously, Kyle was supposed to be fighting Kevin Holland again, rematch after that headbutt incident. but Kevin Holland's had to pull out. I think he's injured. He's not really said much about what the situation was, but he's not able to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still concussed after that headbutt, to be fair.
No,
Probably
yeah.
a bit short notice. So yeah, interesting one for both guys, because it's not short notice because they've both been training, but it's a replacement for them both. And they're both really good as well. I feel like a win for either of those guys. They need to start knocking on the top 15 door. So yeah, that's my pick for honorable mention. You got anything else for us on that card? I think, do you want to make us some money?
Yeah, so if we're going to talk about the parlay, so last week we got a bet come in. It was along the lines of like 7-1. So if you put, let's say, £10 on, you get £80 back all in all for the £70. But yeah, so this week I've got a 7-1 again, so a plus 694. I picked out a few fighters, and I believe Chaos Williams is fighting, which is one we should have said before, because he's always in great fights. Against, I'm going to butcher the name. I'm going to say Bieza.
Miguel Bieza. Yeah.
I've got a spot on.
That will be an absolute banger. That's if you've seen both of them guys fight, we should have spoke about that. To be fair, that is a fun fight.
Yeah, so Chaos Williams, I mean, he comes under a few different names now, like Khalil Williams, and I've seen some other names fly about. But I remember his fight against Abdul Al Hassan. I'm not too sure if you remember the knockout, where he kind of lifted him in the air. And I think it was like the first 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I've got him, and I think he's an underdog for his fight, which is kind of surprising to me, because given his power, he's kind of crazy. And his last loss was against Michael Pereira. This was 2 fights ago, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's probably people putting quite a bit of stock into that loss against Pereira. It was a little bit disappointing, but I think people were so high in him after, as you mentioned, the Abdul. Sorry, I'm going to butcher his name. It's Hassan, is it? Abdul Hassan?
Al Hassan.
Al Hassan, sorry.
Al Hassan.
Yeah, I think people were so big on him after that, because he was getting quite a bit of hype. And then that quick knockout, everyone was talking about him. Comes in against Pereira, who's supposed to be quite a wild fighter. And then if I remember rightly, it wasn't the best fight. It was a little bit disappointing. So I think it's probably people you go from here to here, and you get undersold a little bit. But to be fair, says a lot about Miguel Bieza as well, because he's a good fighter.
Yeah, so I kind of understand why it's an underdog in that aspect. His last loss wasn't the greatest performance, but I think Pereira is a great fighter. Doesn't really get enough credit. I think that was too much for Williams at that point of his UFC career. But so my next fighter will be a favourite. It's Thiago Moises versus Joel Alvarez. He lost his last fight against Islam Makhachev. Kind of expected.
Lasted longer than Dan Hooker.
yeah, that's one way to look at it. He has beaten Alexander Hernandez, and I think he looked pretty good in that fight, if I remember correctly. And just I put a note here about the last few wins he has. Michael Johnson and Bobby Green in 1 year. I think that's pretty impressive record for 1 year, especially Bobby Green recently looks quite good, given his last fight as well. After that, I've got Ben Rothwell. To me, kind of makes sense. He came off a win against the famous Chris Barnett now. Everyone's favourite fighter with that spinning kick. It was brilliant. I just think he's got that kind of more experience and just experience against his opponent. Personally, favourite, makes sense to me. Holloway, I mean, what can you say? Coming off destroying Cater, Bar Volkanovski hasn't lost in a long, long while, and Rodriguez hasn't fought until from 2019. So after that one, I've got Dorcas against Delizi. Just being more active. I think that Kevin Holland thing, the Kevin Holland win pushes you mentally. I think it does a lot for you mentally. And I think given that, although he didn't win technically, it would do a lot for him,
Yeah. I think obviously Kevin's one of the top guys in the world, really. It wasn't long ago that he was ranked in the top 15. I think he's out of it now, unless he's still in it. But yeah, top guy. So he's been in there with him. It's not like he was really struggling or anything. He didn't face much adversity. Pretty short-lived fight because of what happened. But yeah, like you say, I think it takes some confidence from that.
Yeah, I think confidence is a massive thing in the UFC. I mean, look what happened to Woodley. I think Woodley kind of lost all his confidence and then kind of got battered the next few fights he had.
We don't talk about him, not after what he did to the MMA community in that boxing fight. Yeah. He's dead to us.
Devastating. I really thought he was going to really knock him out as well, but
let's not go there.
It's what it is. So, given them odds, them fighters, it comes to just shy of 7-1, and you can improve this by changing Holloway to win from outright to decision. I kind of went on the ways to win last week, and I think Gaethje let me down because he didn't finish Chandler. But you know what? I'm not too mad. But Holloway to win by decision makes it a 13.6 to 1, so plus 1,360.
It's not bad at all. I'm just trying to look to see. Memory serves me right. I don't remember Rodriguez ever getting finished, unless I'm wrong. I
can't recall it. Unless it's kind of.
The Frankie Edgar fight was a doctor stoppage.
Yeah. That was a pretty bad fight.
Yeah.
Rodriguez's point of view.
Yeah, it was. But I was going to say it was a while ago, but it's probably only a few fights ago for him, to be fair, with how active he's been. But no, like you said, Frankie's a wrestler. He was, he was doing some damage because you just couldn't really handle it off his back. That's not the type of fight that Max is going to have with him. It's going to be a stand-up fight, like you say, with a volume. And Max doesn't really knock people out too much either, I think it's fair to say. It seems wrong calling Max a decision fighter because he's so exciting, but he sort of is, really.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I like that. Not too bad. All right, spot on, mate. Is there anything else you've got for us, or I think we sort of wrapped it up there?
I think we've done well.
We have. Right. Well, I'll be on you if we don't win on that parlay, but enjoyed this. Like I say, we could have spoke forever about 268, the fight this weekend and things, but we'll keep it short and snappy. And looking forward to it. We'll chat next week about how this one goes and a look ahead at next one. There's plenty of UFC cards the next few weeks. They're going to finish the year with a bang. So plenty for us to talk about. Appreciate you stopping by, mate.
Thank you.
Nice one.